Hey everybody, welcome back to Farming Cars. We're going to work on the Sauerkraut C10 again today. If you watched the last video, you saw we got an alternator mocked up on there and a belt on there. And the engine runs off of the fuel tank that's in the truck, so that's pretty cool. But I think our next step is going to be to try and get the front clip. You got the fenders and the core support on here. That way we can get a battery in there, hopefully get a radiator mounted up, start doing some wiring, figure out our radiator hoses. And then at that point, it'll probably be, if we get coolant in it, we can at least run it for a while. We'll probably be able to drive around the yard at least to make sure that the transmission shifts through at least a few gears. The transmission worked when I took it out of the last truck, so it should be fine. We'll make sure that the rear end is good, because I have no idea what's up with that. This thing's been sitting for who knows how long. But anyway, here we go. All right, so we got a block off plate for the fuel heater we put there because we don't need the heater part of it anymore, and that'll give us a little more space in here. I built a real simple bracket for the throttle cable, and that'll sit right in there, and then the cable will sit in the bracket. So we'll go ahead and get that installed real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. Alright, so there's the bracket installed, and I went ahead and tightened the cable up. We routed the cable kind of around the injection pump through the normal hole in the firewall there. On the inside, it's hooked up to the throttle, or the gas pedal, accelerator pedal rather. So on the inside here, it's hooked up, if you can see up in there, probably not very well. It's hooked up to the gas pedal, and you can see if I hit the gas pedal here, I don't know if you can see that, but it moves. We're making progress. So this lever here that says stop on it, that's the mechanical lever that moves the fuel rack inside the pump to shut the engine off. There's like a vacuum controlled solenoid here that'll do the same thing, but I think what I'm gonna do, I found this old choke cover in a box of random stuff that I have because I'm a hoarder and I don't ever throw anything away. But I think I can use this little guy here, and I got a cable. So I think I'm just gonna drill a little hole in there, hook that cable up to it, and then we'll just have a cable pull in the cab, just like an old farm tractor where I can pull the cable and that'll pull the arm down and shut the engine off. So wish me luck, that's my plan. So you can see what I did. I drilled a hole in that linkage, added the cable. It's attached to the block down there at the bottom. I still gotta build like a little bracket to attach to in the cab, but you can see here when I pull on it that it works. So right now it's in the running position. You do that, it's off. I think that'll work. So here's what's left of the old core support. I think we can make it work. I'm just going to set that there, right there for right now. I think we're probably going to, the battery tray's over here, so I think we'll try and put that right front fender on first. So, yeah, I don't know. Here we go. So I know one of the fenders was messed up. Apparently it's the passenger front that's all dented up on this thing. So I think before we try and stick it on there, we might hit her with a hammer a little bit and see if we can straighten that out at least a little bit. My big hammer is evading me at the moment, so we'll have to see what we can do with these. Well, I don't suppose the chances of that inner window fender coming off of there very easily, but we're gonna have to try if we're gonna have any hope of doing anything with that. So. We got one that's being stubborn and one that has got some metal bent over in front of it. And looks like we're getting pretty lucky on the rest of them. right. Now we should be able to do something. Well, dang it. The emblem didn't like that. We'll have to do something about that. That's unfortunate. We're getting close though. Well, it's definitely more better than it was. She's still pretty bent. I think that might be about as far as she's gonna go. The guy can spend some more time on it at a later date. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be good. I think the fender will go first. Find out where I left all those bolts. This should be the tray with all the fender bolts in it from when we took it apart, you know, 3, 4, 5 months ago, whatever it was. It's May now. Started in January, 4 months ago. Time flies when you're having fun. We got 2 on there, so it won't fall off. Get the core support leaning up in here. See if we can't mate the 2 together. Oh yeah, she's real nice. Where's my panel adjuster? Make sure we have a sufficient gap to the door here. Almost got her. don't quite reach. Well, I think we probably gotta take that high spot out. Oh, we might need to get a little more heavy duty. We'll make sure we use a block of wood so we don't mar the paint. Huh. Oh, it's moving. I really wish I knew where my big hammer is. Well, one of them's on there for the most part. I couldn't get this bolt on the bottom in, and you can see the gap gets quite a bit bigger towards the bottom of the door. Not that I'm totally concerned about that. I can't find my big hammer. But anyway, I think this part of the, I mean, looking down at it, it looks like it's bulged out here, and it's still low there. But I'm wondering if maybe if I give her a few swings in there, if that would help stretch that fender back down in the bottom. I mean, it's not going anywhere, and it's probably not worth messing with, but I feel like we could get it better. But anyway, this fender's on. Core support is not on. It's just chilling there, but it looks like it sits fairly level like it should, so we'll keep on rolling. I think I'm gonna grab a battery and we'll see if we can't get some battery cables and start wiring this pig. So we're back at her again today. If you've been paying attention, last where we left off, we got a fender on there. I might try and straighten it just a little bit more yet, and core support's just sitting here. I was gonna try and do some simple wiring. I already started getting battery cable together here. I went and got a battery from the local parts store, and we got a belt that should hopefully fit on there with to use the tensioner properly. But we're gonna go ahead and try and get some basic wiring done on this thing so we can start it up using the truck. Anyway, we're gonna work on getting a radiator mocked up in here. I gotta get a couple more terminal ends for some wiring for at the starter for the glow plug relay, and there's a little distribution block, it looks like, on the fender over there, and with a fusible link that I assume, I'm pretty sure, that that's what feeds power to the inside of the cab and the fuse box and such. So we'll need that to get the lights and stuff working. But for right now, in the meantime, we're gonna see what we can do about a radiator. I've got one sitting right over here that I think will work, or at least we're gonna try and make it work. So here we go. So this is just a aluminum, it's a small block Chevy S10 swap radiator that I have laying around. It was in one of my other trucks at one point, and I took it out for a bigger one. That truck has a turbo on it, and it wouldn't quite keep up after I put the turbo on it. But I think it'll do just fine here, because this isn't a very high horsepower application. We're going to have to delete that hose on the bottom there. We'll toss that over there for right now. There, now this should slide right in here. Now eyeballing it, I think what we're going to do, probably modify the core support just a little bit. If it's got brackets welded to the top of the radiator already, we'll put it right in there. We'll something similar to that. So I was kind of eyeballing it before. I got it right here. The original radiator, upper radiator hose for the Mercedes, I think is gonna work for this, and we will set our radiator in here for measurement purposes. Yeah, I think that'll work great. Put it right there. We'll have to figure out a lower hose, but it's almost a straight stretch, just a little bit of a curve over there. I think this is gonna work out pretty good. So, yeah, we'll pull our wiring, the wiring harness and the battery cable that we ran across the top here. out of the way for now. As I say, those look like 5/16 bolts. So I'm thinking what I'll do is where these are, I'll measure that out. We'll trim that little lip back on the core support so it'll sit flush against here. And we'll run it there, so that way we can probably take some sheet metal and build a little bit of a shroud, so that way when you're driving down the highway, all the air that comes through has to go through the radiator, can't go around it. Because I know from previous power tours especially, when it gets really, really hot and air has an easier path to take, it will, and you might not get enough airflow through the radiator to keep everything cool. So like I said, this isn't a high horsepower application, so it shouldn't take a whole lot of cooling capacity, but I want to make sure that it doesn't overheat if I can. So, but yeah, let me grab a socket, we'll get that part. There's the guy right there. You betcha. There was 5 or 6 of them that held this all on here from the factory. Oh, there's another one right in the middle there. Alright, we'll just toss that up out of the way for the time being. I think I'm gonna straighten, the core support's a little crooked down, a little bent up. I think I'm gonna try and straighten that a little bit before we get. There we go. Alright, well zap. We'll cut 2 slots in there real quick so that way we can get that in there, and then we should be able to drill a hole and bolt the radiator at the top through these 2 tabs that I had welded on here from the last application, and then we'll figure something out on the bottom. But just a little bit deeper. We'll break out the old super loud air death wheel here, and that'll get us right where we need to go. Alright, so then the idea is maybe they don't go, maybe it won't go all the way flat. The idea was that that one went flat from there. Apparently it's interfering with that, but here I thought I was going to be all slick. So it turns out I overreacted a little bit. I lined up the slots with the radiator hose so it would sit just perfect. And if I go just a 1/4 of an inch over, it fits right up in there. So, and the hose will be fine like that too. So that was just me being dumb. I should have looked at it a little closer. But I am going to have to notch the core support here so we can get a radiator cap on this thing. So I'm probably just going to use the plasma cutter for that because it's a little bit of a, I don't know, complex bend area. And yeah, this old core support's pretty rusty on the bottom. It's all beat up, so I'm really not worried about cutting it up. So I'm just gonna do what I do and make it work. So get some rough marks here. Where am I? Probably gonna want to come up into here, probably. Over to like here. Make sure there's enough room in there to get your fingers in there to put the cap on it. And we're gonna move this radiator right out of here so that way I don't do something stupid like put a hole in it while I'm cutting. that's interesting. Oh, bet you guys saw that, didn't you? Sure to work better when it's plugged in. Ha! Never had that happen before. I think it's about time for a new outer lens for this thing, though. That baby is cooked. Alright, here goes nothing. Let's see what we can do. Oh, they're not even attached on the inside. Look at that. I'm not even really taking any structure out of it. I'll take some edges off. Clean that up a little bit. But, I bet that'll work. Let's find out. I'll probably come up a little higher here, but yeah, that'll work. There. Not that anybody's probably going to see it, but touch them up with the die grinder, I guess. Oh yeah, that'll be perfect. See if we can't hold it up there. Drill a couple holes. Alright, so we're in. We just got to secure the bottom. It actually fits in there really well. So obviously I have to secure that on the bottom side, but here I'll give you guys a look. Closer look. You know, hacked out a little bit of a hole there so we can get a radiator cap on there and still be able to check our coolant. Notch those out, obviously off center since I messed up the first time. But it fits the whole, I mean, it fills pretty much the whole hole of the core support. There's a little gap over here we'll have to fill in. Well, might be okay, but probably try and fill that in with something. But yeah, other than that, I think she should be pretty good. It's pretty tight. So I think that'll work. Yeah, like I said, the factory Mercedes upper radiator hose obviously fits on the engine just fine, but will fit right there. It's just a touch smaller, but I think with a good clamp we'll be able to crank her down. Clears the belt. Lower hose should be really simple. It just goes from there to there. So we should be good. Let's keep on rolling. All right, here's a little update. I built a positive battery cable, kind of made a little bit of an octopus here, but we got a 4-gauge wire that runs. I'm gonna run across the horse board along the wiring harness. The starter's on the passenger side now. And then I split that, so there's one going to the alternator, and then there's a little separation point or junction block here with a fusible link. This is what feeds power inside the cab. But we did that, and we got a ground cable, battery cable showed up, and you're not gonna believe this, but here, I got something. Let me show you this. Hey, look at that. There's signs of life. We got headlights. Okay, I was gonna show you guys what I did with for the power steering lines. We're gonna see if it actually works. But so this is the original power steering hose from the Mercedes, and I just cut it shorter, and I went up to my local auto parts store and had them crimp on a hydraulic fitting that is equivalent to a 6AN, and I got an adapter fitting from ICT Billet that we're going to put right there in the steering gearbox. And then since the fitting was missing, got a new return fitting, which is just a piece of hose that's low pressure, and that'll wrap from here back to the pump. So we'll go ahead and get those installed and get some fluid in it, and we'll see if it works. So that's what it's going to look like. You can see the adapter fitting and the hydraulic line, return hose, pretty short, a little bit of a bend in them, so there should be enough room for movement if needed. But pretty simple. Then I went ahead and slapped the vacuum hose on there for the brake booster too. This is the vacuum hose from the Mercedes. There's a vacuum pump on this engine right down there, so I just cut it short and added a little piece of rubber hose right at the end there. It should work. So as you can see, the truck runs now on its own. It moves, so I'm pretty excited about that. That's a huge step in our progress. Unfortunately, I gotta go out of town for a week for work, so it's gonna sit for a little bit. When we get back, we'll have to hit it pretty hard. I'm pretty happy with where we're at. I think we're gonna make it. Time will tell. I still gotta get the bed shortened. I think that's gonna be a big time consumer. But here, I'll give you a quick look at the truck again real quick. I don't have any interior in this thing. I mean, milk crate for a seat. The starter button's hanging there. That's how I've been starting it. I have an ignition switch for it, but I gotta get switched out because I don't have keys for this one. I'm not exactly sure how fun that's gonna be to get out. Probably have to cut it up. Yeah, long ways to go, but I think we've got a chance here. So thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.